Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Olivia Terranova, and I work for the Women's and Children's Alliance as the Prevention Coordinator. Today, Tracy Darling DeMarcus and I are going to talk to you about healthy relationships.
Hi everyone, my name is Tracy Darling DeMarcus, and I am the Prevention Program Manager for the Women's and Children's Alliance, or the WCA. At the WCA, our mission is to provide safety, healing, and freedom from domestic abuse and sexual assault. We do this in a lot of different ways by providing necessary services like hotlines, a safe and secure shelter, counseling, case management to people in the community who have experienced abuse or assault and need help in some way, shape, or form. So if the mission is what we do, our vision is why we do it. Our vision as an organization is to foster community where individuals thrive in safe and healthy relationships. That's why it's really important to us that we're out in the community talking to people about this stuff, and why we're really grateful that you have joined us here today.
Now, let's talk about relationships. I bet when I first say relationships, the first thing to pop into your mind is with a dating or romantic partner. But there are actually a lot more relationships that we have in our lives. We have relationships with our parents, with our guardians, we have relationships with our friends and with our peers at school, maybe with our teammates or our coaches, even with our teachers. People that we interact with on a day-to-day basis are all people that we form relationships with. They're all just different types of relationships. Here we have the relationship spectrum. All relationships, both romantic and not, exist on a spectrum from healthy to abusive, with unhealthy somewhere in the middle. Let's start off on the left with our healthy column. Making decisions together. Compromise is really important in a healthy relationship, and it's important that both parties in that relationship have an equal say in the decision making process. Openly and honestly discuss what you're dealing with. Communication can be really difficult sometimes, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but being able to talk openly and honestly with your partner about what you're feeling is very important for good communication. Enjoy spending time together, but can be happy apart. Mutual space and having time to yourself is extremely important in a relationship and is very helpful in maintaining your own individuality. So, enjoying spending time with your partner, but also knowing that you can spend time without them is really important. Moving into this middle section, the unhealthy column, we see breaks in communication. So, maybe losing some of that open and honest communication that you have when you're in a healthy relationship. Pressure. There can be pressure to maybe behave a certain way, to do different things differently than you normally would, to maybe dress differently or behave differently or like different things because that's something that you think that your partner might want. But it's really important to know that you can be yourself in a relationship and maintain that individuality. We'll see some more dishonesty in an unhealthy relationship, maybe. And that's really important because breaks in honesty mean that there's also going to be a break in trust. And you want to be able to be as honest as possible with your partner, even when that's difficult. And inconsiderate behavior. When I think of inconsiderate behavior, I want to bring up boundaries. So, boundaries are the things that we are all okay with and not okay with. And everybody has different boundaries, which is totally normal and okay. When someone crosses our boundaries and does something that maybe we're not okay with, and we express to them that that's something that we aren't okay with, it's really important that they respect that and they're considerate of those boundaries. So if someone crosses a boundary for you and you say, hey, that's not something that I'm comfortable with, and they don't do it again, I would say that that's healthy. But if someone crosses a boundary for you and continues to do it despite having told them that that's a boundary for you, that can be unhealthy and borderline abusive. So, moving into the abusive column, we have one person making all of the decisions. Like I said earlier, compromise is really important. And the definition of an abusive relationship is when one person has power and control over another. And so, when someone is in charge of all of the decisions, that means that they have more power or control than the other partner in that relationship, and you lose that compromise. Manipulation and accusations. Those are really powerful things and are very harmful. So if someone is manipulating you or accusing you and making you doubt your own reality, like gaslighting, that can be very abusive. Feeling like you can't talk to other people, especially about what's really happening in your relationship. If you're experiencing things that you don't think are okay, but you're not comfortable sharing them with other people, that can be a sign that you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship.
So, what makes a relationship healthy? Here are 10 components of a healthy relationship. There are lots of other things that can be important to keeping a relationship healthy, but generally speaking, if these 10 things are present and working together, we can assume that that relationship is most likely healthy. First, we have safety, and we're talking about two types of safety, both emotional or mental safety, that is being able to share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and physical safety. Acceptance means allowing a person to be their true and authentic self, not feeling like they have to act or dress a certain way or pretend to like things they don't like just to be in a relationship with that person. Support is being there for someone when things get difficult or when they are making decisions that you wouldn't necessarily make for yourself. Even though you might disagree, those are still their decisions to make, and you should support them. Equality. The definition of an abusive relationship is when one person has more power and control than the other. So if you are practicing equality in your relationship, both people have an equal say in making decisions and an equal amount of power. Fairness. This also ties to equality. In any type of relationship, it should feel like everyone is treated fairly and putting in an effort to make the relationship healthy. Communication. Communication is key, particularly positive communication. So being able to talk openly and honestly without fear or judgment. Listening and also knowing that you're being heard. We know that fights are going to happen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's how the fights are handled that really determines if the communication is healthy or not. Individuality. We all have different and unique qualities about ourselves, and that's a beautiful thing. You should be able to maintain the things that make you you in a relationship, and those things should not just be tolerated, but celebrated, because our uniqueness and individuality can be one of the most fun things about our relationships. Mutual space. It can be really fun and exciting, especially at the beginning of a relationship or a new friendship, to want to spend all of your time with that person. And that's okay, but it's important to maintain your other friendships and relationships outside of that one person, and they should be encouraging you to do those things. Trust. Trust is built over time and goes hand in hand with honesty. The more you are honest with someone, the more trust you build. And when you have trust, you feel more confident and safe being honest with someone, especially about things that might be difficult to talk about. Trust and honesty build on one another, and you can't really have one without the other in a healthy relationship. Finally, respect. We like to say that if you're doing all these other things, you are probably showing respect in your relationship. Respect has to go both ways. Both people should be putting in an equal amount of effort and showing respect on both sides. So when you're thinking about your relationships, you can reflect on which of these components are present. Which are you doing really well? Which could you maybe work on to better or strengthen your relationship to be as healthy as it can be?
So here we have 4 statements that are really helpful if you ever have a friend that comes and asks you for relationship advice, or if in the future or even right now you're in a relationship and just need to check in with yourself to see if it is a healthy relationship that you're in. So in a healthy relationship, you should be able to say these 4 statements. And like I said earlier, if you have a friend that comes to you and asks you for relationship advice, it can be really hard sometimes to know what to say, so you can turn these 4 statements into questions and kind of help them reflect on their own relationship. So first off, we have, I get to be myself, or do you get to be yourself? This goes back to individuality and knowing that it's really important to be able to show up fully as yourself in your relationships and not have to hide or change any part of yourself to be with that person. Next, we have, I treat others well, or are you treating others well? So not only does this refer to them treating their partner well, but it also puts into question, are they maintaining the other relationships in their life? So it's really important to maintain our friendships and our relationships with our families when we're in a romantic or dating partner relationship. If you start to notice that you're maybe not spending as much time with your friends or your family, or maybe you have a friend that isn't hanging out with you as much, it's important to let them or let yourself reflect on that with this question. I can say no. This one seems obvious, but I like to point out that you can say no and there are no repercussions. So if you say no, you're not going to get the silent treatment. They're not going to bring it back up and throw it in your face that you said no to this thing. Later on, you can say no, and there are going to be no consequences for you saying that no. That's very important. And this last one also seems obvious but can be an eye opener for some. I have fun, or are you having fun? We know that relationships aren't 24/7 fun and they can be hard work as well, but it's important to know that in your relationship, you should be having fun as well with this person. You shouldn't be constantly feeling like it's a, a work in progress or constantly feel like you have to work on something. You should also be enjoying time with that person.
So, how can you support someone who might be experiencing an unhealthy or abusive relationship? Unfortunately, we know that this is really common, and actually, 1 in 3 teens will experience some sort of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse by a dating partner. So, there's a really good chance that you will know someone in the future, or maybe you already do know someone who has experienced these things. There's some really easy ways that you can help that person and support them in getting through this hard time. First, reach out and don't ignore it. If you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or maybe your friend says something that makes you not so sure about the relationship that they're in, talk to them about it. Say something like, I saw this happen and that would have made me uncomfortable. If it was me, how did you feel about it? Really try to open up that conversation and give them the opportunity to reflect on their own relationship. Also with that, focusing on your friend or the person that you care about and not on the abuser. It can be really tempting to just say like, oh, they're a horrible person, you need to break up. But there's a lot of other emotions going on. They're in a relationship for a reason. So just attacking the person that they have maybe other strong and confusing feelings about can shut them down to actually having a conversation about what's going on. So focusing on them and saying things like, I'm here for you, I support you, and maintain that support even if their choices are different than what you wish. There's a really good chance that even if you talk to this person about your concerns, they may stay in that relationship or they may break up for a short period of time and then get back together. That can be frustrating for somebody to go through, because you care about them, your friends, maybe your family members, whatever. It can be hard to see somebody do something that you don't necessarily agree with or understand. But you can say that to them and say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with this decision that you're making, but know that I'm here for you whenever you need me. Also, you can reach out to a trusted adult, maybe somebody at your school, like a counselor, maybe a parent or a friend's parent, or you can reach out to an agency like the WCA. We have 2 24-hour hotlines that are totally anonymous. You don't have to tell the advocate on the other line anything about you personally, but you can say, this is going on with my friend, and I don't know what to do for them, and the advocate can help you in different ways to support that person.
If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse or an unhealthy relationship, there are options for you to get the help and support that you may need. First, the Women's and Children's Alliance has 2 24-hour hotlines. The first is for domestic violence, and the second is for sexual assault. You can call those at any time. They're not going to ask you any identifying information like your age or your name or where you go to school or your sexual orientation. So you can call those if you have a question about a friend or a family member or yourself. There's also a great website, loveisrespect.org, where they have a lot of videos and quizzes that you can take. They also have a hotline number that you can call and a great text chat option. So if maybe using the phone isn't the safest or most comfortable way for you to receive support right now, you can text LOVEIS to 22522 and they will help you the same way that the hotlines would help. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We hope that you learned something or enjoyed the presentation. If you have any further questions, please reach out to your counselor, or you can reach us through the Women's and Children's Alliance website at wcaboise.org. Thanks you all. Bye.